Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to talk about tax burden on Indian people. We are not simply discussing numbers on a government spreadsheet or the percentage slabs listed on the income tax portal. What we are really addressing is the lived reality, one that affects the daily life of every Indian. From the poorest laborer buying a packet of salt to the salaried professional struggling to understand why half their take home pay disappears before it reaches their hand. Taxation in India is not just a financial mechanism, it is intertwined with emotions, perceptions, frustrations, and an entire ecosystem of expectations from the government. So, let's begin. India operates on a dual taxation system with direct taxes on one side and indirect taxes on other. Direct taxes include income tax and corporate tax. Indirect taxes include GST, excise duty, customs duty, fuel taxes, toll taxes, telecom levies, and a variety of cesses that are often invisible to the common man. But what is truly striking about India's tax system is its imbalance. Unlike developed countries where the majority of revenue comes from direct taxes paid by a broad base of taxpayers, India depends heavily on indirect taxes. This means that even people who earn very little, people who do not come under the income tax net at all, ended up paying taxes every single day. They pay it when they buy groceries, when they recharge their phone, when they take a bus or train ride, when they purchase essential goods, or even when they purchase something small as a packet of biscuits. For them, taxation is not a once a year event. It is a daily occurrence quietly embedded in every transaction. Now, let's talk about the middle class. This group forms the backbone of the country's tax revenue. The middle class pays income tax directly, often through TDS, meaning the tax is deducted even before their salary reaches their account. And after paying these direct taxes, the same middle class also ended up paying indirect taxes on almost everything they consume. If they go to a restaurant, there is GST. If they buy a mobile phone, there is GST. If they take their vehicle out for a drive, they pay for fuel that is heavily taxed through excise duty and state VAT. And when they use the highway built with taxpayer money, they must stop at a toll plaza and pay again to simply drive on the roads. This combination of direct and indirect tax creates a strong perception that the middle class is being squeezed from both ends, paying more than their fair share while not always receiving proportional benefits in terms of subsidies or welfare. This takes us to one of the most debated aspects of India's taxation system, fuel taxes. Petrol and diesel in India are among the most heavily taxed commodities, and for decades they have been kept outside the GST system. This gives the central and state governments the freedom to levy high taxes, excise duty, VAT, various cesses, and together they can account for a major portion of the retail fuel price. What makes fuel taxes particularly significant is their cascading effect. When fuel becomes expensive, everything else becomes expensive because transportation and logistics costs increase. The vegetables you buy, the goods that are transported across states, the ride you book on an app, even the cost of manufacturing, everything absorbs the burden of higher fuel taxation. This is why experts call fuel taxes a silent tax on the entire country. And since everyone relies on fuel indirectly, the cost gets transferred to every household, regardless of income level. GST introduced in 2017 was supposed to simplify India's tax structure, and in many ways it did replace a confusing web of central and state taxes. But it also introduced new challenges. The multiple GST slabs from 0% to 28% made it complicated again. Essential goods might fall in lower tax categories, but a lot of daily use products still fall in higher ones. Small businesses that previously functioned with simpler tax compliance now struggle with digital filings, invoice matching, and maintaining proper documentation. Many businesses argue that GST increased their compliance burden, even though it streamlined taxation in theory. On consumer side, GST continues to appear on almost every bill one receives, reinforcing the feeling that taxation is unavoidable. A simple restaurant meal or purchasing basic electronic items reminds consumers that taxes silently accompany every financial activity. But indirect taxes are not the only issue. Hidden taxes also contribute to overall burden. Toll taxes have grown rapidly with the expansion of highways and express highways. People now pay tolls for the roads that were initially built using taxpayer money through the traditional public funding model. Telecom services include indirect taxes embedded into plan costs due to spectrum charges. Real estate purchases involve stamp duty and registration charges that are among the highest in the world. Municipal taxes, property taxes, professional taxes, entertainment taxes. These additional levies accumulate over time, making individuals feel like there is no escape from taxation. Another dimension worth exploring is the public perception of value. People do not merely evaluate taxes based on what they pay, they evaluate taxes based on what they receive in return. And this is where India's tax system faces its greatest challenge. Many Indian citizens feel that they pay taxes and still have to rely on private education, private hospitals, private security, private transport, and private utilities due to the perception that government services are not up to the mark. This creates a double burden. Citizens pay taxes to fund public services but also pay again out of pocket for private alternatives when public infrastructures falls short. This disconnect between taxation and public service delivery forms the emotional core of the tax burden narrative in India. It is not just about money, it's about perceived fairness. Income inequality also plays a fundamental role in shaping how taxation feels in India. A small number of people controls a large portion of wealth, yet their effective tax rates can be lower due to legal tax planning, exemptions, and investment based tax shelters. Meanwhile, salaried individuals who have limited flexibility in structuring their taxable income ended up paying higher effective taxes. The perception that the rich find ways to reduce their tax burden while the middle class shoulders the weight creates resentment and contributes to the narrative of unfairness. We also need to discuss inflation because inflation often acts as an invisible tax. When prices rise, people's purchasing power decreases, but their tax obligations, especially in terms of GST and income tax slabs, remains the same. Compliance itself is a form of burden. For many individuals and small businesses, understanding tax rules, keeping records, filing returns, and responding to notices require time and money. Hiring accountants, paying for software, dealing with bureaucracy, and handling paperwork adds cost beyond the actual tax amount. This compliance cost is rarely acknowledged but forms a significant mental and financial burden on people. In the end, tax burden on Indian people is not just a number. It is a lived experience shaped by direct and indirect taxes, hidden levies, compliance issues, public service quality, inequality, and emotion. For India to move forward, taxation must not only be fair, it must feel fair. Thanks for watching.